Week 3, 7208, class activity for EDD 7208, the self-profile of an adult learner, Tyler Wells. Started off with motivation. What motivates me as a learner? As a learner, I am focused on the problem. I like solving problems. The complexity and the attainment of solving a problem goes from, as I say here, impossible to possible, identifying what it is. And I also like to be fully engaged in the process of understanding and learning of how things are done, in what way something was created, how it was constructed, how it was made. And so the idea of fully engaging myself in that process is the motivation for me in solving a problem and solving problems of practice. However, I do have a combination of intrinsic and extrinsic motivating factors such as satisfaction, goal attainment, job completion, job complexity, money, of course, and fun. There has to be a layer of fun, if you will, or interest or engagement for me as a learner to motivate me to be a part of it, to want to engage in the process. Within our next area, the area identified as a reflection as the adult learner, I asked the question: how important is reflection in my own learning? Personally, I reflect often on how the job that I've completed was done. In what manner was it done? I always akin this and liken this back to when I was a public school teacher, and at the end of the day I would sit and reflect on the lessons I had taught, the level of communication that I had, the level of engagement with my students, and I would reflect on this thinking, how could I teach my lessons better? How could I engage the students in a different way? What was my effectiveness in communication? And I would write down, and I would actually log out in reflection and analyze what it is I did day to day, and I think that is learning for me, because I learned from either my mistakes or I learned from my successes, and I would make sure that I utilize that over and over again. And so I think learning as an adult learner is really no different, because as we learn something, we need to analyze and reflect on what we've done to get to that point, or to get to that learning, to ensure that we do it again, or that we use that same pathway, or we analyze the pathway that we've used because it may have been something different. So thinking and learning about what I've done is extremely important to me. In addition to that, as it reflects, or as it aligns to current practice, or my current position, or what I do currently and for a living, the reflection process is essential to ensure that job completion is specific, is effective, is efficient, and meets goals and benchmarks. And so learning is no different. As I learn something that aligns to my particular field of study, i.e. relevancy, which we'll get to in a moment, I think reflection is a key element. Then within that next component, relevancy, and how relevant is this in learning, absolutely is the question: what connects me to learning? How does everything fit together? In what way do the pieces, quote unquote pieces, all come together to connect things together, make connections personally in my either in my life, or in my work, or in my learning? And typically, obviously, as an adult learner, the learning I do needs to connect and be a part of the puzzle, the piece of the puzzle, in what I do in my job, in terms of what I want to do, not just currently, but more so in the future as well. So what are the pieces of the puzzle, and where is the connectivity, making those connections, so that I can then move from just putting the pieces together and connecting to making it work, to the implementation process. So if I'm learning something new, yes, it has to be relevant. Yes, it has to be connected to my position, to my life, to my motivating factors as well. But more importantly, it also aligns to how I'm going to implement what I've learned in the future. Or more importantly, how can I implement it further down the road? Lastly, then, the question about who I am as a learner, and am I ready to move into self-directed learning? Am I ready to identify my own pathways? Do I understand the various forms of learning? Do I know how to set goals? Do I begin to ask those questions about where I am, where do I want to go, what do I want to be doing? Understanding how I learn, i.e. not so much learning modalities, but how I am intaking and I infuse the various ways of learning into my own thinking, into my own understanding of concepts. So it's identification of the pathway towards learning, setting those goals, and the way I'm thinking and learning. And the question I begin to ask myself is specifically, and especially within this course of study as we move here and along our weeks of our courses, where am I as an adult learner? I see as I complete this particular activity my own understanding of where I am as a learner and what I do in terms of learning and how I want to use my learning to implement new things or to understand and make connections. But am I truly ready to move forward and identify and connect all these pieces to my own learning? And I think this is an interesting time in my own life as I look at the last course that we took, in which we began to identify research questions and expanded our literacy review and began to ask the types of focus on the types of methodologies we used for our dissertation. And I am still in that midst of asking myself, where does I want to go with my own project and my own dissertation, but more so, am I ready to venture that on my own? Am I ready to move forward on my own, or do I still need the assistance of others? And not that self-directed learning isn't aligned to working with an instructor or working with a guide or a coach or a mentor, but it's also more so being able to move along a continuum without someone else pushing me along. And I believe I am ready. And as I complete these activities and I connect more and more to the learning that we're doing for our courses for the program, I see myself aligning more so to someone who is now wanting to learn for specific reasons, but also to improve my own understanding of the world around me. I thank you for watching this short Prezi presentation on my own connectivity to myself as an adult learner.